What is up, Nuggets? It's your boy, Killer Pizza, here with a brand new video for you rascals and rapscallions out there. Now, for today's video, I'm going to review a film I've been looking forward to very much ever since I first heard of the development, but one I've also been kind of nervous to check out. And that is 2021's Ghostbusters Afterlife, directed by Jason Reitman. Now, first of all, the reason I say I was a bit nervous to check this out is because, well, if you're watching this channel, you're obviously a fan of movies, and if you're a big fan of movies, especially the horror genre, you're well aware of like all the cash grab reboots that have come up over the years. Like the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street was awful. A lot of these Texas Chainsaw Massacres that come out aren't anything good. Hopefully, the one that comes out this Friday is much better, but I digress. And most importantly, a good example for this is the 2016 reboot of Ghostbusters, which in my opinion was absolute garbage and shit all over the franchise. But this is not a reboot. This is a direct sequel to 1 and 2. And I'll give you guys a bit of a spoiler when I say it did not let down at all. This movie was great. But before I get into how I truly feel about this film, let me give you guys a little synopsis about it. So, pretty much, this follows two kids, the older brother Trevor and the younger sister Phoebe. Trevor's a 15-year-old kid, just, a regular 15-year-old boy, and his sister Phoebe is, I think, 12, and she's kind of a nerd and feels almost like outcasted for that in a way, just to give a little feel of the type of characters they are. And they live with their single mother, and they end up getting evicted from their apartment in Chicago. So they head down to their grandpa's place, this barn in the middle of nowhere in Oklahoma. And the kids think they're going to be there just to kind of pick up a check or some money that he left them and they can move back to Chicago to cover the rent. But really, the mom ends up breaking it down to them that they can't go back. They have to start fresh, at least for, a good 6 months or so in the middle of nowhere in this farmhouse, which the mom is kind of reluctant because she had absolutely no relationship with his father and with her father and has nothing really nice to say about it. So pretty much moving forward into this film, we follow the three of them trying to adjust, where the kid Trevor goes down, tries to get a job at like this burger place. He lies about his age because he has a crush on this girl there, where Phoebe goes to summer school to take a science class because she's a nerd. And that's where she meets her new best friend named Podcast, this little younger kid who's really into podcasts, radios, conspiracy theories, all types of stuff. And her teacher in summer school, Mr. Gruber, I believe. What was it? I don't see it. Mr. Gruber or something. It doesn't matter. It's Paul Rudd. And they end up forming a bit of a relationship, because that's one of my favorite parts in the movie too, where Paul Rudd does not want to teach summer school, so he just puts on horror movies for them all day. He's playing Cujo, and I believe he plays Child's Play later. But where Phoebe's uninterested in the movie, she wants to learn. She kind of goes snooping around Paul Rudd's stuff, and when he finds her, they realize they have a lot in common. That she's a pretty knowledgeable kid, and he knows a lot because he is a teacher. So they kind of make this bond over that type of stuff. And he's the one that explains to her that her grandfather was a Ghostbuster, and she never heard about it, which I like that part of the story because they play it off like Ghostbusters 1 and 2 was real, like it really happened in the timeline of this movie, which I know all of this, a lot of stuff in any timeline would really happen, but I guess they do it in more of a modern way where it's like, it's believable that this kid 12 years old, never heard of the Ghostbusters, 32 years old, so, he pulls up videos and enlightens her about the Ghostbusters and everything. And something that happens earlier and through this movie is there's a lot of earthquakes, and Paul Rudd explains to her that these aren't earthquakes in Oklahoma. They're having so many. It's like it's going to be something else, maybe something paranormal. So, anyways, they find, I forget what it's called, the chamber that holds the ghosts in it. Phoebe ends up finding one of those in a hidden compartment, like in her grandpa's house, and brings it into school. And after school, her and her buddy Podcast and Paul Rudd go outside. Paul Rudd's a huge Ghostbusters fan, by the way. He wants to open it up. Always wanted to open it up. And when they open this shit up, one of the scariest, most gruesome ghosts pops out, flies light speed all the way down into this underground like canyon that's below like the city. And he kind of unleashes all these ghosts and demons and shit like that. So that's pretty much the plot there. At this point, moving forward, it's up to Phoebe, her new friend podcast, her brother Trevor, who gets the Ghostbusters mobile, whatever you want to call it. I'm getting all these names wrong. It's early for me, guys. I'm sorry. Uh, I sound like such a fucking poser Ghostbusters fan right now, but yeah. So her brother and his the brother's like girlfriend, they all kind of get together to be like the new Ghostbusters to try to stop all of this. So yeah, that's pretty much how the movie goes. I know I rant and rambled. I did not want to make this video really, really long, but I knew I would get way too into this and go on and on. So my bad, guys. That's what you're going to have to get. So yeah, they pretty much work towards the end. There's a lot of fun shenanigans in here, like them working to learn to use the equipment, chasing the ghosts and everything. Lots of tons of fun stuff in this. But I'm just going to talk about what I really liked before I get into the spoiler at the end, which I have to talk about. So for one, this is completely random, but let me mention how I love when they're actually in the scene chasing this ghost, they all get arrested and put in a jail cell. Because I'm like, that's such like Ghostbusters tradition that the Ghostbusters get considered crazy and get thrown into a jail cell. But they end up making it out and going to fight these ghosts and everything. But first thing I'll mention about this, which is something a good friend of mine, Tim, said about this movie. He says, just don't expect a comedy. Because if you're expecting this kind of like a Ghostbusters from the past, it is not at all. This is way more of like, it has elements of comedy, but it's more of like a fantasy action adventure kind of movie. Like, I don't want to always take the easy comparison when there's kid actors in a film like this, but it is pretty similar to something like the Goonies, you know, or even like Monster Squad. It's kind of like not necessarily a coming of age movie, but yeah, more of like a comedy adventure fantasy. It has a very serious tone for most of the movie. Like the comedy that's in this film isn't pretty much a 1-2 nonstop punch like in the original Ghostbusters. It's more of like something to lighten the mood and keep a laugh, which honestly, I really did not mind that for this film. It gave it something different. They tried something different, which I can always respect in a film. I really loved the characters in this movie. Every single one of them has great character development. Like Phoebe feeling like she's an outcast and for being a nerd and everything, then realizing the history of her grandpa, which was Egon Spengler, and kind of learning about the Ghostbuster stuff and kind of finding a purpose. We got her friend podcast, which is some of the best comedic relief in this movie, and you can tell he kind of has like a crush on her, which kind of like goes out through the movie. Then even Paul Rudd was really good comic relief in this, and yeah, this just really developed the characters. You learned a lot through them, their relationships and how they spoke with each other really dictated and changed like their decision making, which a lot of times in movies where they fail, I feel the number one thing in a film is your characters. If you don't care about the characters, why would you want to watch the movie? You know, I've watched a million horror movies where it's the most gruesome kills and gory stuff, great practical effects, which is fun and I love them, but if I'm not invested in the characters, I don't really care too much if the kills happen or not. If that makes sense. That's my long rant. I must say these mini puff marshmallow guys, the scene with them is absolutely hilarious. I want to give a big shout out to this company for using practical effects when they showed the Keymaster. A lot of times they use them. It was practical. I mean, it was CGI a lot of it, which they did use in the original Ghostbusters. That was a big thing back in the day. But they also used practical effects, which this film did, which I really appreciate. So yeah, I just really love the pacing of this movie, the characters and the development they have. The humor is pretty funny when they add it in there. Like I know Phoebe, her mom tells her to try to make some jokes to fit in, and she's got all these corny like mom jokes that are really funny. What she say? One joke she says, two cows enter a bar. One says moo, the other says go home. You're drinking too much. Like that's pretty funny. I'm sidebarring here, but yeah, there's so much little trinkets and Easter eggs and things I could mention here, where yeah, it's clearly a passion project. Like I didn't mention yet that the guy who directed this movie, his dad directed the first two, and apparently when he started writing this, he didn't know he was writing this movie. He just started writing a story of a 12-year-old finding some Ghostbusters equipment. And with that being said, with him being in here, directing it when his dad did everything, you can tell that this is a straight passion project. This was directly made for any fans of Ghostbusters. Like, though it doesn't have the same tone of an original Ghostbusters, which I did like the new tone they took, like I said, I think you'd be pretty hard pressed to find anybody that's a fan of Ghostbusters that wouldn't enjoy this movie based off the nostalgia alone. They really did it justice. And this is where I'm going to go into a bit of spoilers towards the end, because all the original Ghostbusters do return, and I do mean all of them, because uh, there's some pretty heartwarming moments earlier where Phoebe's kind of speaking with her grandpa as he's a ghost. He's kind of controlling these lights, and he would point one way. There's a funny scene where she's like, "How do you know all this?" And his light points at his desk by all his college degrees and everything. So I thought that was kind of funny. So though it took a little longer than I would have liked for the Ghostbusters to show up, they showed up at the end, all three of the living members still, and it had a smile on my face from ear to ear. And they're fighting off this giant spirit, the Keymaster, and it really looks like they're not going to be able to pull this off. They're back at Spangler's farm, which turned out to be this big fortress. It wasn't actually a farm, a dirt farm, as the locals called it. It was a big trap to try to catch all these ghosts. Turns out that's why Spangler originally left the Ghostbusters. That's part of the story. That's why Ghostbuster ended. Spangler took all their equipment and took off, but that's because there was like some temple underneath in this area that like controlled the gateway, and he kind of moved out here on his own and left his family to sacrifice everything to kind of keep all these ghosts and demons on the other side of like the dimension or whatnot. Yeah, I don't get all these terms they talk about. I'm not a smart man. I went to public schools, but I know Ghostbusters, damn it. So that kind of explains Spangler. But in one of the most heartwarming moments, this is the spoiler because everybody's talking about how this movie made them cry at the end. Spangler shows back up in ghost form to help the Ghostbusters and hug his granddaughter goodbye and hug his daughter goodbye to show her he like loved her. And I won't lie, guys, like I didn't cry when I watched this, like a lot of people said they did. I really started. They weren't pouring, but they came out. I had to wipe my eyes. It was a pretty great moment, and that could go on another point of people talking about is it in good taste to bring dead actors back in CGI because the actor that played Spangler has passed away, and I heard his daughter gave the okay, and they're bringing back a character, not the person. So I see nothing wrong with it, especially in paying such tribute to the Ghostbusters. If anything, it was more respect to him passing. Like this was kind of more closure for an actor who passed away that he can kind of wrap that up and the Ghostbusters. And they kind of had a passing of the torch moment to these kids, which if this is the direction the film is going, I'm all for it. I know I'm not for a lot of these movie companies bringing the films back. Like, I hate all the new Terminators they started making after 3, after 2 really, but say like Jurassic Park, I really like the direction they go with their newer films. So, in that retrospect, Ghostbusters Afterlife was amazing. I don't know what else to say. I've rambled for almost 15 minutes. Hopefully you guys enjoyed me talking about this film. One thing I do with these videos, I never try to script anything I'm really saying. Just the first thing I say is that really douchey YouTube intro you hear is the only thing I really script because I felt I needed to say something to start my videos, and that's just what I've been saying ever since. And everything else, I like to just go off the cuff because I want to be passionate about these movies. Because people that watch my videos, I hope you guys are passionate about films too. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm reading off of a piece of paper and reading a script I wrote, which I respect those who do it, but that's not for me. I want to wear my emotions on a sleeve and really get passionate about the films I'm talking about, whether I like them or not. And that's what happened with this one. I loved this movie. This is a modern day classic. Like, I could see this being watched, for decades and decades by everyone's kids, our grandkids, because this movie is going to hold up. This movie has a lot of heart, a lot of charm, a lot of wit. It pays a lot of respect to the original, but it also tries to make its own path. It's very funny, great characters, great soundtrack. This makes it feel like this epic adventure the whole time, and the CGI was good, the practical effects were good. Yeah, I pretty much loved everything in this movie. I would think of a couple things to nitpick right here about it, but you know what? I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to leave it on that high note that I just left it at, that this movie fucking rules. And also, if you want to check out the original too, they actually sell a 3-pack of all of these with the Ghostbusters Afterlife for I think like $20 or $32. I say upgrade and get the 4K because it's only $5 more and you get the Blu-ray in it. This is a movie in time that's going to look way better on 4K. And I was going to say, if you want to watch the originals before you check this out, I grabbed 1 and 2 on Amazon for just $10. So if you don't want to get that giant Ecto set that's sold out, which I wish I could have got, but yeah, you can pick this one up very cheap. But yeah, like I said, Ghostbusters Afterlife, awesome. I absolutely love this movie, and I think you will too. I know this isn't necessarily horror, but I'm trying to do some more cult films on here. So, this involves ghosts. That's spooky, and Ghostbusters is definitely a cult film. So, I mean, who the fuck cares if I'm fucking reviewing Ghostbusters? You guys can go fuck yourselves if you don't like Ghostbusters. But, okay. I digress. Anyways, yeah. Check this one out, guys. And, yeah, other than that, Blood, Guts, Gore. I'll check you guys next time.